Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. You're watching Alicia's Life, and I'm here for the review of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 9, The Reunion, Episode 2. Let's get started. So tonight's episode was definitely meatier than last week's. We are ramping up to the high drama. We started out tonight where we left off last week with the fight between Kandi and Portia over the $5,000 that Kandi gave for Celebrity Apprentice. That argument went nowhere, no resolution. Moving on. So we spent a lot of time talking about Matt and Kenya. There were a variety of questions along the same lines. Why none of Matt's abusive behavior was the last straw for Kenya? How come she was okay with Matt and not Portia? Why did she feel safe with Matt and not Portia? Those kinds of questions were thrown at Kenya. And overall, her pat answer was she loved Matt at some time. She had love for Matt. She was just like any other woman and kept taking him back, believing he had changed and those kinds of things. Whereas with Portia, they're not friends, so she doesn't have the same tolerance level for Portia that she does for Matt. Andy asked Kenya how many times had she seen Matt since the Charlotte incident when he punched the driver in the face, allegedly. And she first said, I haven't seen him at all. And then later on, he's like, oh, but you had sex together with in the truck. And then she said, well, maybe just one time. So she was very vague, very sketchy. I don't know if anybody believed her. It sounds like there was definitely something going on behind the scenes between her and Matt. Kenya's never going to admit that she used Matt for her storyline. And also somebody had asked Kenya, when was she going to find a real man and stop paying for them? And she said she never hired Matt, yada, yada, yada. Basically, she's going to deny that she used this man for a storyline. At the end of the day, Kenya got out of this what she'd hoped. She had a chance to sit there at the reunion and tell all the young girls that look up to her to be careful. Don't stay in relationships that are abusive. If you stay too long, you could end up dead. And I think at the end of the day, that's what she was trying to do. She was just using some man to do it. So then Andy asked Kenya, why did she reveal Sheree's secret if it was a secret? And so she tried to say she never really revealed it in that way. It wasn't that bad. But the truth is it was. She did let the secret out of the bag. She and Sheree went back and forth about whether or not Sheree was talking about the girls or Matt when she was blaming Kenya for Matt's behavior. So Kenya was upset and said that Sheree was making a mockery of the abuse because Sheree is basically blaming Kenya for Matt's aggressive behavior. And Sheree tries to say, no, she wasn't really referring to Matt, but it did come out that way. It absolutely did sound like Sheree was trying to blame Kenya for Matt's aggressive behavior. But to be fair and to be truthful, I don't believe Sheree was at any point mocking abuse at all, the way that Kenya kept saying she was. Because Sheree herself was an actual victim of domestic violence, and I doubt she'd make a mockery of it. And there was nothing that Sheree ever did that made it seem like she was mocking abuse. So let's move on to Shady Faye Faye, where we stayed pretty much the whole night. This was a big, meaty part of the episode. They brought up the bomb threat. They brought up Apollo and her divorce. They brought up a lot. So let's just get started. Phaedra's official marriage status, according to Phaedra, is that she is divorced. She brought her divorce decree, she gave it to Andy, and she let him see it. Kenya pipes up and says that she's still married, that she's not divorced, because the original filings were filed with the wrong names on them, and so the judge threw them out. So I was intrigued, so I went online just to get the real details, and it seems that in 2015, that's when Phaedra filed the divorce decree. Well, that's when she filed for divorce, and she changed the spelling of Apollo's last name from Nida to Nita, just a slight variation. Now, she maintains she did that for privacy because they're celebrities, and she didn't want anyone, digging into the public record. She didn't want anyone digging into those archives and seeing what was going on in her relationship. However, she sealed the divorce decree, and Apollo was never served, according to Apollo. He never received the summons, and the whole thing came and went without him ever knowing about the whole divorce proceedings. And so, according to Phaedra, she said he did talk to the court, he was involved with the court, and that he contested it after the fact. Now, the searching that I did online, it said that the reason why Phaedra did that, or one of the reasons why she did that, because it's all alleged, the reason why she did that is because with the divorce proceeding the way she had it, with the wrong spelling and him never being served, she got to walk away with full custody, all the assets, and she didn't have to split anything with Apollo. Now, on the reunion tonight, she said that she settled with him and paid $100,000 to Apollo. So I don't really know what the truth is, but we know, as of March 2017 at least, they are still married. So then Kandi talks about how Phaedra has friends in City Hall, or the city offices, and that she's been interfering with her ability to get the Old Lady Gang restaurant off the ground. But she assures Andy and Phaedra and everyone else that the restaurant is opening that week, the week of the reunion. And Phaedra was surprised, like, oh, is it opening this week? And she said, yes. So all your dirty dealings didn't work. We're still getting our restaurant open. So just another thing that it seems that Phaedra was doing behind the scenes to get back at Candy. So Candy brings up Johnny, and she said, you said you had nothing to do with Johnny, but yet you introduced him to all of your lawyer friends, and you helped with this lawsuit. And you said that the calculations, by your calculations, that he was only making $2.30 an hour or whatever. And Candy says, well, no wonder you're not winning court cases because your calculations are all off. Well, Phaedra counters with, well, if they didn't have a case, the lawyers wouldn't have taken it. So you're obviously getting sued because you don't pay your employees. So the stalemate, we'll see what happens. I know for a fact, well, not for a fact, online, that Johnny did sue Candy, as we all probably know by now. But I also saw, I think last week, that Candy is counter-suing Johnny for defamation of character and a whole host of other things. And Johnny ain't got no money, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. So we get to the bomb threat. And basically the question is, hey, Phaedra, if you said that the bomb threat was a big misunderstanding, why do you have a bodyguard? Which is one of the questions I had at the time. Well, Phaedra says she never had a bodyguard, that she travels with security, and that's all that was. So Candy says, well, you ran into some friends of mine and you told them that the person that you were with was your bodyguard. So Phaedra says, well, that's hearsay. You weren't there. Someone told you that. It's inadmissible. And the whole first half of the reunion, Phaedra kept throwing out those legal terms about hearsay, inadmissible, those kinds of things. And I was thinking, okay, Phaedra, you're not in court here. You're not on trial. They're not on trial. And I feel like it was just one more way for her to try to deflect and try to avoid answering the questions. So then we get on to the package about Sheree and Bob, their relationship in Hawaii, and how we really never knew much about their story. We knew they were divorced. We saw a bunch of things that went on the show, but there was a whole dark side of Bob that we never knew about. And they show a package, and it's very hard to watch. Again, it's very moving, very, very touching. And Sheree reveals that she's never, ever spoken about this abuse that she went through, and she never would have either, except that it came up on the show. She says she thinks that Bob probably forgot the cameras were there and just started talking freely and making jokes about the situation. So Sheree was forced to go back and talk to her mom about it, her friends about it. Like, her own mom didn't know. Like, that's amazing. Her kids. She said to this day, well, not to this day, but since as of that reunion, she hadn't talked to her kids about it. She didn't talk to any of them about it. And I was thinking, you need to, because those kids, especially, I mean, all of them need to know domestic abuse is not okay. And the sad part is that her kids really want the family back together again, but they don't understand what drove them apart. I mean, I think in this day and age, cheating is really kind of taken for granted. It's really downplayed, and nobody really understands the painful repercussions that come from that. And so people can hear, oh, he cheated. Okay, well, move on. He'll never do it again or whatever. But there are some really deep-seated pains that come with that, going through something like that. But abuse, everybody feels like, all right, you're in an abusive relationship. Everyone recognizes that as truly devastating, detrimental, and you could lose your life behind that. So I really think that Sheree should say something. And she did. She finally came around and said, yes, I'm going to talk to my kids about it. I have to do that. I mean, it's for their well-being as well as her own. And she did say, she was a little ashamed about it. And I mean, I think every woman who's been in those situations, they do feel embarrassed. They feel bad. They stayed so long. They feel bad they didn't see the signs. They feel ashamed. They feel so much guilt. And it's so unfair. The woman should never feel guilty for being the victim in a domestic abusive situation. It's very sad. So none of the women on the stage said they knew anything about it before. They were shocked. And Andy asked Sheree, what did she do with all that information? What did she do with those feelings? And Sheree said she just suppressed it all. She held it in for 19 years. 19 years. Andy asked Sheree, what was she hoping to get from Bob that she didn't get from Bob in Hawaii? And she said she was kind of looking for some answers. Like, why? Why did he do this to her? Why did he leave? Why did he leave her in that house with those kids? She said he was gone for 6 months and she covered for him. She didn't tell anybody where he was. And then if you remember, what happened is that he finally, when they were going through divorce, he stopped paying for the house. He was supposed to pay for the house. They got evicted. They had to move into the townhouse. The whole thing about the air mattress that's been like the bane of her existence since we saw that on the show by accident. I mean, Sheree has gone through a lot, a lot. And at the hands of Bob. It's really unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate. And the fact that he really can't even see his wrong. Now, I did hear that he put some rant out on, not rants, but he did put an apology on Instagram, trying to apologize to Sheree, but, it's too little too late. I mean, public opinion had to come alongside and show you the error of your ways. There's something wrong with Bob. I don't think he truly is remorseful. I think he just wants to clean up his image, and it's really a shame. And I feel bad for him. Well, I don't really feel bad for him, but you know what I mean? It's really a shame. So that was the meat of the episode. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot to cover in an hour. One small thing was they had a package about the kids, watching the kids grow up on the show. We saw little Riley, and we saw Cairo and all those kids. And somebody asked Cynthia, if you know Sheree is all about the money, how come you only pay those kids backpacks for them walking in the cargo fashion show? And so Cynthia says, well, those cargo bags are really nice, and Sheree says, for the record, Cairo never got his backpack. And Sheree said, I thought he picked it out that night. And she said he picked it out, but he never got it. So, come on now, Cynthia. Come on, you had one job, man. Anyway, so she swore he would have that bag that night. One other thing that's kind of noteworthy is someone asked Sheree, does she owe Nene an apology? Because in one of the other reunions, she was attacking Nene because her son Bryson had gotten arrested for shoplifting. I'd forgotten all about that, y'all. Well, Sheree said, yes, I owe her an apology because kids should be off limits, which is what Nene had told her at that time. So all in all, it was a very good reunion. I feel like there was a lot that got covered. I mean, I was 30 minutes in thinking, man, we're only 30 minutes in? There was a lot. So then they showed a preview for next week. Next week looks good too. The men come out on stage. There's some kind of dust up with Peter where he leaves the stage, takes off his mic, says he's not going back out there. Bob shows up. He says he's afraid to talk. And the creme de la creme, we find out who told Portia that Candy and Todd wanted to drug her. I think it was Phaedra, y'all. My money is on Phaedra. We see that Shamia is brought out on the stage. She makes an appearance next week also. But my money is on Phaedra. So what did you guys think of the reunion? Part 2. Was it interesting? Did you enjoy it better than part 1? Are you excited about part 3 and part 4, y'all? I mean, we covered a lot tonight. So I'm thinking, wow, we have a lot more to cover. So I'm excited. Looking forward to it. Leave me a comment below and let me know what you thought about this week's episode. And I'll see you guys the next time. Bye!